Hey guys, and welcome to a new video here on Phloshop. My name is Joseph. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a high-end beauty retouching from start to finish, all inside of Photoshop. You're going to be watching me edit this image and moving it from this to this. The first thing that we're going to do is to start cleaning up any of the blemishes, and to be honest, she doesn't really have that many blemishes, and so it's going to be a very quick step. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to select my healing brush tool. So after selecting it, the next thing I need to do is just to adjust the brush size so it's just about equal to the size of the blemish. So the one I want to tackle first of all is this loose eyelash strand. I'm just going to make the brush a little bit smaller, press Alt to sample close to it, and then just paint over the blemish. So when I release the brush, it's going to automatically adjust the settings and then get rid of the blemish. So it's going to sample the color tone and the texture, mix it up, and then create a new set of texture and color tone that matches the area. So I'm going to do the same thing to this. So select the clean area and then just paint over like that. Select the clean area, paint over, and that's what I'm going to be doing for the healing process. So I really want to take my time, and I also want you guys to see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm not going to forward this, but if you already understand the step and you want to skip, just skip the video forward a few minutes, and then we'll be talking about the next steps that I'll be taking. So currently all I'm doing is just looking at the problems that are standing out and then just getting rid of them. Normally I don't even zoom in this much to get rid of blemishes, but it's because I want you guys to feel like you're the ones editing. I want you to be able to see exactly what's happening, and that is why I'm zooming in this much. Because sometimes when you zoom in to about this level, because currently it's like 150%, so what I'll be doing from time to time whilst I'm healing images, probably just zoom out, you know, and then just do a before and after to see if I'm really getting rid of the necessary things or I'm just overdoing it. So maybe I'm not going to zoom in as much. Currently it's at 64% and this area looks uneven, so I'm just going to be painting, so sampling and painting. That's all I'm doing. So my left hand is on the Alt key on the keyboard, and so anytime I need to sample, I'm just going to press down the Alt, sample, let it go, and then paint. And then my right hand is holding the pen of my Wacom tablet. I know that if I need to sample, my hand is already on the Alt. I don't need to take my eye off the image. So if I need to sample, I don't need to stop what I'm doing to look for where the Alt key is. I just know my left thumb is on that key. So if I just need to sample, I'm just going to press Alt, sample, and then I'm using my right hand with the Wacom pen to just paint over. I'm also not aiming to do every single thing with the healing brush. Some of them I know can be gotten rid of inside the frequency separation stage, so I may not necessarily get rid of everything. Plus, the aim is also not to over polish. We still want to keep it looking as natural as possible. The next thing I want to do around the lip area is probably just remove a little bit of the highlights captured in the corners, because it's looking weird to me at this point. So I'm zooming in, and for this I'm going to use my clone stamp tool. So I'm going to press S for the clone stamp, press Alt to sample the clean area, and then just paint over the highlights in the corners, because I don't want that to be visible. And we're done with the left side. So if I zoom out and do before and after, you can see now the lips look better. With that highlight over there, it was really bothering me, but now it looks really good. So I'm going to do the same thing to the right hand side. So if I need to sample inside, I'll just sample and drag it down, sample and drag it down, and then do the same thing right here. Now this looks good. So the next thing I need to tackle is some of the lines on her neck. So I'm going to press J for my healing brush tool, and I'm going to sample an area just below it and paint over the line. Just go over until it's really gone, and I don't want to get rid of every single line, just the ones that immediately stand out. And this looks good. Now that we're almost done with the bottom area, I want to go up and then now start focusing on some of the issues that are around here. And her skin is really amazing. She really doesn't have blemishes at all. and that's really good. So that's one thing that you really need to pay attention to, and it's one thing I spoke about in my beauty retouching course or workshop. So it's an online workshop that I'm going to be releasing hopefully by the end of the month or first week in February, whichever one comes first. So I hope you're going to purchase it when I release it. It's just a means for me to support the channel and keep creating free content for you guys. So I spoke about you choosing models who have clean skin for shooting beauty, because it's really, honestly, it's really going to save you a lot of time when you're post-processing. And because you're shooting beauty images, you really want them to be as natural as possible. Having someone who already has good skin means you're not going to do as much retouching, and it's also going to help keep your images looking as natural as possible. And that's why for me, I'm really, at this point, mostly because of laziness as well, I like to select models with very good skin for beauty images, just so I don't have to work as hard as before. So this looks just about right. Maybe I just need to get rid of this eyebrow strand right here, and I think we'll be done with the healing. I think this is also standing out a bit too much. So zooming in a little bit, I can see that this part is looking a bit off. So I'm just going over those areas like that. And you can see I'm being selective. I'm not doing like a general healing with a very big brush and then just healing anything and everything. I'm just being selective. So some of the areas I'm not even going to touch at all. And all those little things really do help with keeping your image looking natural. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit right here and then just remove some of these hairs. So I'm going to use a clone stamp tool for that. So S for clone stamp tool, sample, just get rid of that, sample, get rid of this, sample, paint, sample, paint. You can see I sampled from a wrong area, and so the color over there was really different. And that's the thing about the clone stamp tool. It doesn't work like the healing brush. It's doing like a direct copy of whatever it is you're sampling. Meanwhile, the healing brush will attempt to blend the colors and the texture to make it look as natural and seamless as possible. And that's why for me, when I'm doing a lot of healing or fixing skin problems, I tend to use a healing brush a lot. Okay, so moving on to the other side, it really doesn't need much. I'm going to leave it, probably tackle this area right here. So I'm going to start with the clone stamp tool. I'm just sampling and painting. And I think for this, I will want to be a bit heavy-handed with this. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm not really going to care about how it looks at the moment. So I'm just going to sample and then make sure I get rid of as many of the hairs as possible. So this is what I'm going to do, a bit more of like a blanket edit, even though it's still a bit selective. I just want to make sure that I'm getting rid of a lot of the hairs here. I don't really care about it not looking even at the moment, because I'm going to reduce the opacity. Like, Joe, you're spending so much time, why would you just be careless at this point? I'm not. I just want to make sure I'm getting rid of like majority of the hair. So when I zoom out a little bit, it looks uneven, looks funny. I'm going to bring the opacity down to about 50%. And when I do it before and after, you can see we've gotten rid of the hairs, but then we've kept the shape, and it looks off. But I'm going to continue with frequency separation to even out, and then even with dodge and bend to bring the shape back. So I'm not really too concerned about the fact that it's looking off at the moment. So I'm going to create a new layer and do the same thing to the left hand side. So sample, paint, or if you want to be even safer, you can reduce your flow to about 30%, and that's even going to help keep it looking as natural as possible. So I'm just gonna reduce the opacity again to about 50%, and after, and that looks good. So zooming out, if I just group everything and call it healing, you can see before and after that we've really taken out a lot of the blemishes, yet she still looks like herself. So So now we're moving on to frequency separation. I have an action and there are a ton of them out there. By the time I release my online workshop, I'm going to add the frequency separation action that I've been using, and it's going to be for free. It's also going to be in my digital store when I finally release that as well. So all those things, just stay tuned for them. It should be dropping by the end of this month. I'm really working hard on them. I really want to release them by the end of the month. So stay tuned for those. But for now, let me just run this action, and it's going to ask me how much blur do I want in the image. So I'm going to sample around, and you can see right now I can see texture, and I don't want to see texture on my blur layer. So if you look on the right hand side, we have a low layer and then we have a high layer. So the high layer is going to contain all of the texture, and the low layer is going to contain all of the colors and tones. So I want to make sure I don't have any texture on the low layer, and all I need to do to make sure there's no texture on the low layer is to make sure I don't see texture while I am blurring here. And right now you can see the full image with a lot of texture. When I let go, it looks blurry, but we can still see texture. So I'm going to up the radius to about 7.6. Now it's beginning to look like there's no texture, and I think we're making progress. So when I zoom out a little bit and look at it from this distance, I can still see it looks rough, so it still looks like there's a bit of texture. So I'm just going to up it again to about 10. And I think 10 really works well because we can still see the shapes. We can see like there's a lip, there's a nose, these are eyes, eyebrows, everything still looks in place, as opposed to dragging it all the way out and then you can make out what this is. It's just a big blur. We don't want that. So again, if I even make it like 41% and zoom in, the eyes almost look lost. Anywhere between 10 for this image. It's going to vary with yours because it depends on the megapixels of your camera, the lens you use to shoot, the f-stop you shot at, and all those things. So always just play around it and find what works. And I think like I said, 10 really works for this image. So I'm going to press OK, and the action is going to do the rest and separate it. So the first two things I need to do now, I'm not going to work on the high layer at all. That's because I feel I've been able to deal with all the texture issues. So all I need to do is work on the low layer. So the first thing I need to do is just create a duplicate of the low layer. So I'm going to clip this layer to the one below, just so everything I do on this layer is visible on that as well. So the next step I'm going to take is just to create a black and white layer, and I don't want this to be as in-depth as the one I use for my dodge and bend. So just creating a black and white layer is fine, and I'm just going to drag it to the top. So make sure it's on top of the stack, even though I just need it to be on the texture layer. But one thing is, when I select my mixer brush, so if you don't have access to your mixer brush, when you press B, it's just going to go straight to your brush tool. But when you press and hold, you can come down to mixer brush. Now again, I need to make sure sample all layers is unchecked. Currently it's checked. When I paint on the low copy layer, you see it's sampling the texture, it's sampling the black and white. So if I make the black and white invisible, you can see that the black and white is affecting the image, and we don't want that. So I'm turning the black and white layer on, I'm pressing undo to undo what I just did, and I'm going to uncheck sample all layers. So now when I paint, let me just overdo this. So now when I paint and I turn off the black and white layer, you can see it's just a smoothing that is done. The textures weren't sampled as well, and this is the proper setting that you should use for your mixer brush. So I just hit undo to undo the mess I made earlier, turn on the black and white, and I'm going to start evening out the tonal transition. So just gradually painting in and trying to even out the skin tones. Even though I'm using frequency separation, it's not really the main part of my retouching process. Dodge and bend is, but I like to use frequency separation, especially when I'm working with like a large number of images. Oh, before I continue, let me just hit save. So I save this. I don't want Photoshop crashing and then everything that I've done just goes to waste. So always remember to save your images. All right, so what was I even saying? I was saying, even though frequency separation is like a process I'm currently using for my retouching process, I usually use dodge and bend to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Frequency separation for me is just a means to shorten the process, the retouching process for me. So even though I'm doing this and it looks heavy and it looks like I'm doing a lot with it, I'm going to reduce the overall opacity just so it's not as strong as we currently see it. So if I hide the black and white layer and just do it before and after, you can see that I'm evening out the skin tones. It's looking really polished, but that's not the look we're going for. So I'm going to turn on the black and white again, and I'm just going to make sure I even out the skin tones. and making sure I'm not dragging highlights into shadows. I'm staying within the areas, and the areas that can't also be well blended, I don't really care, because I know I'm going to use dodge and bend to finally shift the tonal transitions to look more appealing. So currently just using the healing brush, just going over areas that immediately stand out, and then just trying to even those out, just like that. And I'm also varying my brush size, so if I want to go into a corner and my brush is too big and so it's going to be sampling areas that I do not need, I'm going to make the brush smaller, and I do that by using the left bracket key. So the left bracket key makes the brush size smaller, and the right bracket key makes it bigger. I think I'm okay with the face. I'm just going to come down to the neck and again do the same thing just around the neck to blend these tonal transitions and make it look smoother, just like that. So you really don't need to do like so much. The retouching doesn't really have to be extra to get natural looking images. Like, these are just short strokes, and I'm painting over where it needs to be painted. I'm not really going over the entire image, just the areas that are not well blended, just going over those. And remember, my frequency separation stage is just a base, it's just a step. It's not the final look, or it's not the final process to give me the final look. It's just a stepping stone, basically. If I just do it before and after the frequency separation, you can see there's a lot of shift in the tonal transitions. But I'm going to close the group and reduce the opacity to about 50%, the before and after. And once you can see the change, it means it's still visible, but it's just not going to be as strong as it was when it was 100%. So this is how I like to do my frequency separation. So the next step is dodge and bend, but before I do dodge and bend, I just want to inspect the image and make sure I don't need to do any more healing or frequency separation work before I go to dodge and bend. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and then just go over the image and inspect it just a little bit. And so far everything looks good. The only thing I noticed is with her eyes. There are some veins in her eyes, and I think I want to just reduce that a little bit. So I'm going to create a new layer. I can go back to the healing, but then because of frequency separation layer, I can't do that. So I need to create a new layer. Just going to hit J for my healing brush tool, and I'm just going to start sampling and then getting rid of some of the veins in her eyes. It's even good I'm doing it on a new layer because I don't want to completely get rid of it because she's human. So I can just lower the opacity of the layer, and it's going to look reduced and look a bit more realistic as well. Again, even though this is high end, we're still trying to make this image look as realistic as possible, or as relatable as possible, because human beings have veins in their eyes. Okay, just trying to get rid of this hair. So maybe I need to zoom in a little bit for this and use my clone stamp tool instead of the healing brush. So just trying to adjust the brush size and make it smaller, and sample and just paint. So zoom out and it's pretty much gone. So I need to probably just lighten this area a little bit. Again, I'm going to use my clone stamp tool, and with a very low flow for this one, maybe 6%, sample, and then just lighten it up a little bit. That pretty much does it. So I'm going to move on to the other eye, go back to my healing brush tool, and then sample and paint to heal some of these blemishes. So I'm really being careful and taking my time just to remove these blemishes. So I'm going to do the same thing right here, and I'm doing all of this on one layer, so when I reduce the opacity, it's going to affect all of it. Now I need to lighten these areas, and I'm going to go back to my clone stamp tool, and with a very low flow, I'm going to sample and then just try and get rid of this and that, and maybe just reduce the intensity of this dark spot. Okay, so probably just once I'm here, I can just try and get rid of this as well. That's pretty much it. So zoom out a little bit, and this pretty much is what I'll do with the eye. So here's before and after. I rename this to eye healing, and probably bring the opacity down to about 50% or 70. I think 70 looks good for this particular image. And so you can see we have some of the veins in the eye, but it's just not as prominent as before. It's less distracting. It helps with the overall mood of the image. Okay, so now we can move on to dodge and burn. So I'm gonna run my action again. I'm gonna make these actions available when my workshop drops, so stay tuned for that. I hope you really purchase it when I release it. So sorry for the shameless plug here, guys. It's not out, but I'm already plugging it in. Anyways, so dodge and burn. So run the action, created the black and white help layer, my burn, and my dodge layer. But I feel it's lacking contrast because I can't really see the blemishes that need healing, and that's because we probably did a good job with frequency separation. So I just need to create a curves adjustment on top of that and adjust the curves just so the blemishes become a little bit more pronounced, so I can see exactly what needs dodging and burning. I'm gonna start with dodge. So pressing B for my brush tool takes me back to the mixer brush, but that's not what we want. We want the regular brush tool. So I'm gonna press and hold and click on the brush tool. I'm gonna reduce my flow all the way to about 3% and send my opacity to 50%, just so it builds up the steps that I'm gonna be making and make it look realistic. So now I have my fingers on the left and right bracket keys because that's all I need to be doing, varying the size of the brush. So my foreground is set to white, and now I'm going to paint white, making sure that I've selected my layer mask right here. And I'm going to start by painting to lift up any areas that I feel probably are too dark and need to be lightened up for a more even transition. So I'm just painting, trying to even out the tonal variations. In case you can see what I'm doing, is a before and after. So before and after, and I can see the areas that I am dodging to even out the tonal transitions a bit. Now that I'm in this area, I can see I need to burn this area right here. So I'm going to go to burn and then just burn right there. And now that I'm even with the burn tool, let me just probably go over and burn the areas that need burning around this place as well. So currently I'm doing the burning, bring everything together and make it look as uniform as possible. So I'm darkening down whatever needs to be darkened down. I think we should turn this into a series on YouTube. So let me know what you think. I'm probably going to caption this as watch me edit because it's more in-depth and I'm taking my time going step by step and showing you exactly what I'm doing, so you get to see you get to understand my thought process and things I'm doing. So let me know in the comments down below if you think I should create a watch me edit series. I'm probably gonna do it, but just let me know if you're gonna be interested in a series called watch me edit, so that we can have like a conversation like this whilst I'm editing my images, because probably I handle every image differently. I'm always doing different things. I think it's going to be really beneficial because you get to see me do different things, different images, color grade them differently, look at my process, because sometimes I do Capture One, sometimes I don't, sometimes I just use Camera Raw, sometimes Lightroom, anything. So let me know what you think, because depending on my mood and the image is also going to determine the software that I probably want to use to edit. And so you're going to be learning like all those things as I do them. Let me know if it makes sense. Let me know if you'd be interested down in the comments below, and also hit the like button if you really enjoyed this video, if you want more people to see it. Currently this is the way I want you guys to support the channel, just by leaving a like, leaving a comment, subscribing if you haven't, joining the family because we're growing. I appreciate all of you guys that have been with me from the beginning, and those of you joining now. I really appreciate all of you. let's just keep growing. Let's just keep, learning from each other. I want to see all of you grow, get bigger, get better, especially this year. And that's another reason why I'm releasing another shameless plug. That's another reason why I'm releasing the workshop, because it's going to be more personal, more in-depth, I hope. So let me just quickly do a before and after to see what we're doing, and it's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to continue without the black and white, so I'm just going to add contrast still and just paint here a little bit. Get rid of the contrast to have a normal view. Probably just burn this area in. So currently burning just to even out the tonal transition right here. Okay, doing the same thing here. And this dodge and bend step is to correct. So it's a corrective dodge and bend that I'm currently doing. I'm going to do another dodge and bend, which is going to add shape or depth to the image. I also did a shortcut version, so if you want to see that, I'm going to put it in the card. You can click on it and watch it after watching this one. For this, I'm going to do a manual sculpting process. Just so those of you that don't know how to do it would also learn how to do it in this video. And I think this pretty much does all of the dodge and bend that I want to do. So I'm just going to rotate the image a little bit just for a new perspective. And now it's making some of these lines a bit more visible. I think my eyes may have adjusted to the normal way of looking at the image, and so when I rotated it, it's making some of these lines a bit more visible, and so I'm getting rid of them. So if you want to rotate, just hit R on your keyboard, click, and then drag the image, and it's going to rotate it. And if you want to reset to the normal view, I'm going to do that in a second. So R, and I can press escape, and it's going to reset back to the normal view. Now this is beginning to look like a distraction, and I'm going to tackle that next. But so far, I think what I've done with the dodge and bend really looks good. So before I do the dodge and bend to sculpt the image, probably just get rid of this line right here. I'm going to create a new layer above that, hit J for my healing brush tool, click and sample and paint, and I can see some of the lines right here, so I'm going to get rid of those. She has a little bit of hair here, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit, go back to my healing brush, and also just get rid of these lines whilst I'm here. Okay, and I'm going to reduce the opacity just a tiny bit to like 70%, create a new layer, and now just tackle some of these hair strands. I personally don't really mind having the hair here. Maybe I just want to tone it down. That's just my opinion. If you want to get rid of it, by all means do so. Also note that everything I'm doing is just based on personal preference. It's just me doing what I think looks good for me, or that basically helps form my style. So definitely, if you want to do things a little bit differently, you're free to do so. All that I have done so far looks good, so I'm just going to reduce the opacity of this one as well to about 70% again. Hit Command S to save everything we've done. Don't forget to be saving your work, people. And we're gonna move on to sculpting dodge and bend. Okay, so the next step is to add depth to the image, and that's what we're going to do right now. And I'm going to use dodge and bend to do that. So I'm going to go back again and run my dodge and bend action one more time. And that's going to create the exact same dodge and bend that we used for the corrective dodge and bend, but this we're going to use to add contouring to the image. So I'm going to open up this group. I don't really need to add contrast, like I did for the dodge and bend that I did earlier. So I'm just going to start painting on the dodge layer. So B for my brush tool, and I'm going to go over the areas that already have light on them and enhance it. So I'm painting over the forehead like this with my white. So if I do it before and after, you can see the forehead is popping up a little bit. Anywhere that I want to be a little bit bright, I'm just going to go over with my brush. So areas like this, going to go over the bridge of the nose, tip of the nose, probably increase my opacity as well, just to enhance the effect. So I'm going to go over the cupid bow because it's catching light and I want to enhance that. The lower part of the lips, just going over like this. So I'm going over the collarbone and painting everywhere that there's light currently present. I did the same thing to the neck. So I'm just painting over the areas I need light. So I'm going to go to burn, but before that, this is everything that we've done concerning dodge. Just go over this area a little bit more. Ooh, I'm doing that on the burn. So just get rid of that. Rather dodge here some more. Okay, and the eyes, do the same thing here. Inside the corner of the eyes. And now we're going to move on to burn. So we're going to do the opposite. So everywhere that needs darkening, just going to darken down with this brush. Inside the corner of the eyes. So we're adding more drama that the makeup artist already did. Just go over the eyebrows as well. Sides of the nose. Do the same thing here. So we are shaping and contouring the nose a little bit. And going to the corner of the lips. Right under the lip, this shadow. So I'm just going to enhance that. Under the neck and chin. Again, the collarbone to enhance the shadows right there. So when I hide the black and white and then just do it before and after, you can see we've added a lot of depth and she's really popping out of the background, but it's a little bit too strong. So I'm going to go down to about 50%. Here's the before and after. This is turning out to be a really long video, but I love it. And I really hope you're learning so much from it. So again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and leave a like. Also, let me know if you want me to do more watch me edit videos like this. Okay, so the next thing I need to deal with is the color difference. So I can see like over here it's a little bit desaturated, as well as some parts of the neck and these areas right here. So I'm just gonna use a shortcut, create a new layer, change it to color, press B for my brush tool, and now I'm gonna sample and then just paint over those areas. So once it's set to color, when I sample and paint, it's going to change whatever hue is there to the hue that I have sampled. So if I do a little before and after, you can see that the neck area is changing to this color. And it's pretty quick. It's something I use a lot, especially if I'm working with a lot of images and I just want to quickly do something that I can replicate on other images. So here I don't have to do any hue saturation adjustments and things like that. I've been able to even out the skin tone variations. So if I do before and after, you can see that we've been able to match it up a little bit. I'm going to bring the opacity still down to about 60%, and that's okay. Now the next thing I need to do is color grade, but I've already edited this image, not this particular one, like another one from the series. So I'm going to copy the color grade from that one and apply it to this one. But I promise with my next watch me edit, I'm going to do everything from beginning all the way to color grading for you guys to enjoy. But let me show you how you can copy your color grading from one image to another. So this image is 2954. So I'm going to go to the one I've already edited, and you can see color grade, extra highlights, and noise. I need all these things to be brought onto that particular image I'm working on. So I'm going to shift, click on color grade, click on highlights, and then click on noise. I'm going to right click and go to duplicate layers. I want to move it from 2957, or I want to copy it from 2957 to 2954. So I'm going to click on 2954, press OK, and when I go back to that layer, we're going to have the color grading already applied. So if I go into the folder and show you exactly what's inside color grade, the highlights and the noise. I'm going to show you. So color balance is what I did first. So if I go into color balance, inside the midtones, I added a bit of red, I took out some green and put in a lot of blue. So inside the shadows as well, I just added +1 red, I added blue by taking out -1 yellow. Okay, and inside the highlights, I added a lot of red, so -5. I added green, so -2, and I added a lot of blue, and that moved to -7. The next thing I did was also put on a photo filter. So if I just double click on that, you can see it's a cooling filter just to cool down the image a little bit, and I added pop. So this pop is just a curves adjustment, and you can see I lifted the highlights. I didn't do anything inside the individual channels. It was just the entire RGB that I moved a little bit more to the right. So you can even move it further in this particular image. Somewhere here is good. Yeah, that's really working well. So here's a before and after, and I like the pop, so I'm gonna hide that. And the next thing I did was add extra highlights. So all I did in here was to create 2 sets of highlights. So the first one targeting the top part of the image, and the second one targeting the lower parts. So I did 2 sets of highlights. So for this, I think it's a little bit too strong for the forehead, so I'm just gonna bring the opacity down a bit more to about 8%, and that's because I think I added a lot of pop, and so it's really pushing the highlights on the forehead a bit too much. So I'm going to reduce this just ever so slightly, just like that. The next highlight is also just a curve layer. So both of them are just curve layers that I set to screen. Setting a curve layer to screen is going to brighten the image, but then I brought the fill and the opacity down, and then I masked this out of the face. So again, if I just set everything to white, this is how it looks, but I don't want it to be visible on the face, so I'm going to use the mask, paint with black with a very high flow, and paint it out of the face itself so that the highlight is visible on the neck and the shoulder and maybe chin. I think I want to bring it back to the chin, so somewhere like that. So you can see it's popping on her collarbones, and that's really nice, and it's adding to the dewiness or gloss of the image. So the last thing I also did was just to add noise to make the image look a little bit more organic. So I'm just gonna turn it on, and this is the noise filter. So if I zoom in a little bit, here's the before, there's no noise, and now there's a little bit of noise, just adding a little bit of grain to the image. So yeah, I hope you really loved this tutorial. I hope you learned a lot. That's the purpose of this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments down below. I know it's really long, but I had to do it. So let me know if you want to see more watch me edit videos like this, where we start from beginning to end. Yeah, just let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone.